Okay, so let's go ahead in our source and we're going to just follow right here in the app.vue. And this is where the HTML and associated CSS is going to be placed for the header portion. So this router view, we're going to leave it here. However, we're going to get rid of this image source. Okay, so right now it would be worth referring back to the Balma CSS documentation to see if there's any specific elements that are already in place for something like a navigation bar or a header. Okay, so here I am at balma.io/documentation overview start. Okay, so if we click on the layout tab, we can see we don't have anything here. We do have like a hero section, and we'll use that eventually, as well as a footer section. If we click on components though, we can see we have a nav section. All right, so we did refer back to this earlier in the course when we were working with an Adobe XD to see kind of how the default nav bar is laid out, which is right here. So it gives you some example HTML to use and to refer to based on your particular needs. So I pretty much followed this relatively closely. However, I did adapt it to go from something like this to something like this up here at the top. As you can see, they're basically the same almost. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started writing out our HTML. I'm gonna hit Control B just to get rid of that sidebar. And all right, so the first element that we're gonna add is a class of nav. So div class equals nav, and a helper class, we can actually add a shadow with has hyphen shadow, and this is optional. You don't have to add it, but it's just barely noticeable. So I'm choosing to add it. And then inside of here, we have div class container, and container is also specific to Balma, and it's defined, and it adds a centered container from which you can place all of your content. Now you probably wouldn't add that if you wanted a fluid width layout. All right. Next here is also specific to the nav component. So div class equals nav left, and this is going to hold our logo. So we're going to put in a class nav item, and this is another item or class rather that we add for individual items like logo, the individual elements for our links and such. So my company. All right. So just after the closing tag of nav left, we're going to add in a span class of nav toggle. So span class equals nav hyphen toggle. And this is for the hamburger icon menu. And the way they have that set up is inside we have 3 additional spans which serve as each of the 3 horizontal lines that make that icon up. So there's a spans opened and closed. So copy that, paste it 3 times. We'll come back to this though to make it actually work and add some Vue specific functionality there. But we're going to leave it like that for now. So div class equals nav right and nav hyphen menu. Again, we're going to come back to this and add some Vue specific stuff inside of that particular class. All right. And next here's where we have our 4 links right here. So home, about, features, and fact. So ordinarily you would use like an ahref or like a unordered list or something. But for us, we're going to be using something specific to Vue, which is router link. So router hyphen link. All right, 2, and you can think of this kind of like the href. So we have our first one is going to be home. But first let's add a class of nav item, and I'm going to add my own class of r hyphen item, and we'll define that later on. All right, so router link. So now we take this and we copy and paste it. We have 4 primary links there. Each one of these, for now, I'm just going to make them all point to fact because I'm not creating the other pages. It'll be a little bit redundant for the purpose of this course. So features, about, and fac. All right. And then we also have an additional button. So div class equals nav-item. And again, I got most of this, this scaffolding, if you will, from the example on the nav component page that we just took a look at balma.io. So we add p class equals control. And here we have a class equals button. Is hyphen primary is for designating the primary color that's associated with our theme here. So we're going to make that button a primary color. And also is outlined. And this is a class that makes it so that the button is not outlined, because if you recall, right here, we made it kind of hollow. Well, not kind of hollow, it is hollow. So let's come down here and close that A tag here. And then we put in inside of the button a span class of icon. Close that out. And also I class equals FA for font awesome and FA-download. Now we didn't actually include font awesome yet, so let's do that just in a second. Let's create the actual text, which is span join now. And let's save it. Now, if we refer back to the browser at this point, if you have npm run dev already ran, you'll see we have the basic structure here. We do have a little bit of margin or padding up there. We'll figure that out. But we can see we don't have the actual icon showing up. So let's go ahead and fix that real quick. If you go back to the balma.io documentation, we'll see that at the bottom, we have font awesome. We need to include this in our index.html. So copy that, Control B, index, just right here, just above the closing head tag. We'll save it. And there we go. Let me check this out. Awesome. So obviously the color's not correct, but we will correct that. And this top section right here, forgot, it's based on the CLI generating some CSS there, which we didn't get rid of yet. So let's go back real quick to our app view. And all of this stuff, we're just going to gut it. So let's get rid of that. Now we go back and we can see that that's much better. Okay. Let's do some real quick CSS/Sass to get this thing working a little bit better, or looking a little bit better, more consistent with our mockup. So I'm just kind of dragging this over, and we'll see if we can get away with just doing a kind of a split screen so you can see how it updates as we write our CSS. So we're going to reference the nav class, and we're going to make the background, and make sure you indent this correctly, as that's how Sass works. Background color. We'll make it 383838, and that's, you can grab that color code, by the way, from our mockup. That's what I used. All right, save it. You can see how that updates. We're also going to add, we're going to reference rather the links inside of it in the hover state. So hover, hit enter, and tab in. We're going to make them gray. So because right now, if you hover over them, they're like that. Make sure you space that out, otherwise it won't work. Now we're pretty much staying the same. Next, we also have our, let's see here, nav-left A. So we're going to style the logo, and we're going to come in and we're going to make it white. And also we're going to make it font weight of bold. There we go. Additionally, we're going to reference the links with a class of r-item, which is a custom class that's not defined in Balma, but one that we're going to do instead. We're going to make the color C1, C1, C1. So we'll save that just to make these pop out a little bit more. Next, we're going to give them a padding. So the padding will be 0.5 rems on the top and then 1.75 rems on the bottom. We'll save it. So it's going to space them out a little bit more. And then also just for mobile only, so we're going to add mobile here with a plus. We're going to make the color gray and their hover state, sorry about that, and colon hover. Give us some space here. We're going to make the background color really light. So F1, F1, F1. We can't really see this yet because the navigation isn't responsive and we can't see that, but we'll get to that momentarily. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and save, and that's good for now. So in the next section, we're going to focus on getting this responsive navigation actually working. And if you look right here, we could see, we click on it, nothing happens.